Scary night, isn't it? With the murders and all. It's like right out of a horror movie or something. Sydney? Oh, you've put the phone down. Anyway, welcome to the Slash and Gash podcast. My name is Frankie. Pleasure to have your company. Just wanted to do a quick discussion on where I think the Scream franchise should go from here. Whether it does or not is a different question altogether. I mean, Scream 7 has officially entered its third weekend this week. And, you know, people are still split on it. Me and Will gave our thoughts in the previous video. If you've not seen it, go check it out. Look, to recap briefly, there's a lot of good things in 7. The gore was stepped up to another level. Nev was great. It was really good to see Sydney back as the lead character, which she hasn't done really since 4. She, had just a little bit of a glorified cameo in 5. Was meant to be in 6, but because of some pay shit, she wasn't, in 6. Which, to be fair, as much as I love Nev Campbell, as much as I love the Sidney Prescott character, it did work to a certain extent. With continuing the Sam and Tara storyline. But this was the first film with Sydney as the lead character. We got to see her relationship with her daughter. Joel McHale as her mark was good. Yeah. But as with every Scream film over the past 10 years, since really 4, it was a shit show towards the end. But that's the thing. For me personally, I just feel like, and I say this as a big Scream fan, it's just getting tiring at this point. Which is hard for me to say because I am a huge fan of these films and so is Will. But it's hard for, us to keep watching the same shit every 2-3 years, It felt like they got the formula in 5, with the Sam and Tara storyline, the sisters. It breathed new life into the franchise. It was fresh. Sydney having a side role did work. And in a way, it actually worked really well because at the end of 5, Sam asks Sydney, am I going to be okay? And she replies, eventually, which is almost a passing of the torch to Sam. Like, this is always going to be my franchise. Yeah, bish. But, I'm getting older. You take it from here and keep her safe. But, if obviously you guys know what's been going on, I ain't going to go into it. It's a shame that, because it was reported by Skeet Ulrich that Sam was going to be the killer. Which kind of would have been cool, to be honest. It would have been interesting to see how she would have done that. Would she have killed Tara? Can you imagine? She kills Tara. That would have been pretty funny. Opening kill. Or even the final kill. It would have been a twist that nobody, or not many, would have seen. I personally wouldn't have minded it. Would have been very extreme and dark, but I'd have been like, yeah, man, that's pretty ballsy from the writers. But yeah, the less said about that right now, the better, because we all know what's going on. We all know why she wasn't in 7. And, look, like I said, I'm a big Nev Campbell fan, and I'm also a big Sidney Prescott fan. But how many times are we going to see the same shit? Like, Sidney's story's been done over and over and over and over. What are we going to keep seeing? Do you know? Who is it this time? And let's be honest, a lot of us went to see Seven because of the Stu mystery. We all thought Stu might be back. Yes, I would have still watched it if it was just Nev and some other sort of pull instead of us knowing that Stu Macker and Matthew Lillard are back in it. Still would have gone to see it, but it wouldn't have been as quick, I guess. It definitely wouldn't have made as much money as it has. I know that for sure. There's a lot of just diehard Matthew Lillard fans out there, so that obviously naturally pulls in audiences, puts bums on seats. But now that you've used that pull, you've already used that card. Where do you go from here? You can't, keep doing the same shit. I mean, you can, it's Hollywood, but... And look, Scream's always going to make money. But just because it makes money doesn't mean, they can just keep making shit. For me, it's always quality over quantity. They could not make another Scream film for another 10 years and I'd be happy. But, where do they go from here? This is what I'm wanting to talk about. Where do they go from here? Where does the Scream franchise go from here? They can't just keep relying on this Stu angle. Just keep putting in clues. Next thing in Scream 8, some random cop's just going to be like, oh, well, that's Stu's, he's buried in the cemetery. Well, they never found his body. You know what I mean? Yeah, but his head was smashed to pieces with a TV. Oh, but they never found his body. Fuck off. Who wants to hear that shit? Do you know what I mean? It's done. If it was going to be done right, it should have been in 3, but, Will's mentioned it in previous episodes, previous videos, why that didn't happen. And it makes sense why it didn't happen at the time. It's just... For me, it just feels like the franchise is very tired at this point. It felt like it was revived with 5. I wasn't a huge fan of 5 when I watched it, but it's grown on me. I won't lie to you, it has grown on me. I put 5 ahead of 7 and 6. I liked the, relationship between the sisters, Sam and Tara. I like the introduction of Chad and Mindy. Gail's just a fucking bad smell at this point, honestly. Me and Will could just do an episode of why we hate Gail at this point. She was decent in 1 and 2, but, at this point, she's literally just taking up someone else's spot. I'd prefer to see the camera guy from 2. The one who's like, did you get that on film? Yes, I got that on film. I'd rather see that guy. Although, having said that, he could actually turn out to be the killer in Scream 8 and, people would still be like, oh my God, that was so good. Where was the motive though? Do you know what I mean? Because of you, my fucking... filmmaking career, my journalistic career went down the drain. And that's why I came back to kill, especially you, Gail. But, no, jokes aside, there's 3 realistic ways they could go from here. 1, and by the way, these are not options that I am personally wanting to see. I'm just saying that these are the 3 realistic options they could go from here. 1, they continue the Sidney story forever. Because look, Nev Campbell is not gonna say no. because at the end of the day, money talks, right? And bullshit walks. Pretty sure Will says that all the time. Money talks, bullshit walks. So Nev will keep saying yes to coming back as Sydney, which, this isn't anything personal against Nev. I love Nev. I love Sydney Prescott. But from a narrative standpoint, come on. You've done this gig. Just leave it. Like, honestly, 7 was such a good way for her to just dip out of it now. But, what I want and what she wants are two completely different things. The second option is they could bring back Sam and Tara. This sounds more improbable right now because of everything that's going on. I don't know if Melissa Barrera would want to come back right now. Maybe in 10 years or 20 years when her career's maybe not as... Maybe when she's not getting that as many jobs as she might be getting now. And obviously look at Tara, played by Jenna Ortega. She's killing it. She's in everything. She doesn't need Scream anymore. If anything, Scream needs her. So that's the second option. They could go back to that storyline because, I still would want to see what would have happened with Sam and Tara. It would have been interesting to see what happened after New York. What ends up happening with Sam. Does she give in to what her father, Billy Loomis, wants her to do? To kill. To be a killer. A cold-blooded, born killer like he was? Or does she just continue being the new Sydney? Or the first Sam? Basically the new final girl in the Scream franchise, rather than it, being Sydney all the time. That would have been a really interesting, from a narrative point of view, to see where they would have gone with that. And the third option is to start it completely fresh again, but maybe in 5 or 10 years, give it a bit of time to breathe. Start it off with completely new actors, new characters, completely away from Sydney, completely away from, Gail, Dewey. I mean, Dewey's, rip Dewey. Love you, man. Love you, Dewey. Shouldn't have been killed. But, yeah. Another bad decision. But anyway, I digress. Yeah. To start off with completely new actors, new characters, and just see where that goes. Because they did it with 5 and 6, and it was doing pretty well until it all went sideways, and, shit hit the fan. So, that's an option. But, yeah, look, like I said earlier, as much as I love Nev Campbell, as much as I love the Sydney Prescott character, honestly, at this point, it just feels so repetitive and it feels tired at this point. So, what I would like is for them to just leave the franchise for a few years and revisit it, but just leave Sydney out of it completely. Because her story's done, as far as I'm concerned. Her story has been done over and over in 1, 2, 3. And, for me, when I look back, 3 is actually the perfect ending for Scream. It leaves the door open, literally. She leaves the door open at the end. It's more like a symbolic ending rather than anything more... crazy like, oh, they're definitely making more. It was more like just a symbolic ending where, I'm tired of your shit, Ghostface. So if you still want to keep coming after me, I'll be ready. But now, look, I get why Nev keeps coming back, like I said, because of the money. And why wouldn't you? but from a story point angle, from a narrative standpoint, it's just done for me. And I say that as a big Scream fan. But we will see. Time will tell. That's going to do it for me on this quick video. Let me know what you think. Where does the Scream franchise go from here for you? Do you want to keep seeing more Sidney Prescott in Scream? Do you want to see Sam and Tara come back? What do you want? Let me know. Comment in the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. Like, share, subscribe. Follow the podcast Instagram, which is /andgashpodcast. And thank you for listening. We will see you in the next one. Stay spooky.